Still asleep, and I ain't talking about no bedtime. The truth is not a Google search, you need to get your head right. The Greek goddess of illusion was called Media, and I'm not a coincidence theorist, I look for thread lines. Smashing every deadline, no longer smashing red wine. Though I can hear the bells chime, it feels like the end times. That probably should have been smashed on red wine, but the carnal mind is foolish. Obey and end up ghoulish. Don't get used by instinct, take control and learn to use it. Make a load of earnest music, earn a few quid, learn a few tricks. Sure, the truth is persecuted, this whole world is pure abusive. Know a bit about everything and everything about nothing. Figured out my noggin while you picture out shopping. You sit about watching while I dish it out, stop it. I don't mean to sound cocky, I'm not even proud of it. It's a second nature to me, just to be this out honest. I don't even need to sound honest, never been about profit. Everything but out on it, you can bet your house on it. Doubt I'll be out for the count when the sounds, and I'm down for the beat, no beat down. I mean, how long's it been? Help me out. I've been the only one who's held me down. All in the mind, hell freeze now. Still sick with it, hell see how. Few bars down and the world freaked out. I don't reach out, I seek out to speak out. I'ma recount the reasons they beat out.
Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the 509 Divine Pines podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Daniel Pena. It is October 4th, 2024, and today I have some very powerful information for all of you gamers out there. I game it, and I play, with a lot of people. Some of you watching are probably really interested in online games or games in general. I mean, it's a common thing by now. Everyone has them in their household, and it seems like it's not going away. But as a matter of fact, it's increasing, and no problem with that. Video games are fun. They bring together the family, and I think that in some aspect it makes your brain move a little bit faster if you're pretty hardcore about it. And it's a creative art. It frees your spirit, and it helps you kind of just get into your own little world. Makes you happy. Video games are cool. No hate against video games. That propaganda where it creates psychopaths and killers is absolutely ridiculous. They say that about guns. They say it about football. They say it about sports. They say it about everything, right? Everything makes men psychopathic killers, but that's the mainstream media. Right. So, first and foremost, go over to shopc60.com for the world's best antioxidant. That's scientifically known, yes. From the 1980s, it has won a Nobel Prize with the research from Buckminster Fuller. And you could take this oil subliminally. Shop C60 has gummies. They also have facial cream, so you can have some youth regeneration in your face and in your skin, and skin oil. They also have oil for your dog. So if you to keep your dogs healthy, then you can go ahead and give them C60. Yeah, I give my dog C60, and they go all over the house. Sometimes I get really annoyed because of how much they don't stop moving, but I love my dogs. Yeah. They're over there napping. Hope you guys are having a good night. This one's going to be a quick episode, but it's going to be informative. I apologize for the burping. Let me get some water. I think I'm burping because I just ate yogurt before I had came on air, and it's gonna go ahead and cause some refluxes. You guys would if you guys would I'm not telling you have to, but you guys can also go over to boomerboost.com. They have a brand new product called Myotrol. Myotrol is a powerful cellular regenerative supplement. and it's been in the research for a while. I've been working with this company for a minute, and they tell me like about their products, and they talk about what's going on. Well, here it is. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on screen for all of you guys. Myotrol is a brand new supplement that will help you get your muscles and your body on point. So where did it just go? I just had it pulled up. Jeez. uh well, oh gosh, individual products. So they have minerals, supplements, vitamins, gladiator barley, powerful supplements, all natural. They have a mission, or I guess a motto of, being mind, body, and spiritually balanced. I guess that's what you could generalize their company by, a very powerful company that keeps you in mind spiritually. If you want to like have clean ingredients, they have that. It'll enhance your body and it'll enhance your mind through the chemicals and through the foods and through the natural processes that they put into supplement formation. Pretty powerful stuff right here. So Myotrol, the description would be potent flavonoids, lignins, and other polyphenols to support muscle and energy synthesis through genetic expression. So uh, here's a little video on Myotrol. You guys can go to
Did you know
boomerboost.com and use coupon code Joe30 for this brand new supplement.
falls result in more than 800,000 hospitalizations every year, many resulting in death? Muscle loss increases your risk of falls and injury, and up until now, there wasn't much we could do about it. Maintaining strength throughout your life requires activating dormant genes to promote muscle growth. The activation of these important genes decreases with age. Myotrol is a revolutionary product that reactivates these dormant genes, some of which have been inactive for 20 years or more. Now, with Myotrol, you can enhance muscle function, reduce the risk of mortality, and improve overall quality of life. Others only recommend protein powder for muscle building. This approach can strain your system and may not be very effective. Myotrol is the solution we've all been waiting for. By activating specific genes, you can have strength like when you were much younger. And you can also increase your energy and motivation at the same time. It's like a free reset for your strength and vitality. This is a game changer. Simply take 2 Myotrol in the morning. Kickstart your reset and begin performing like you used to. Shop now and start your journey towards improved muscle function with Myotrol today. With your first order, not only will you receive a 30-day supply of Myotrol, but you'll also get a free stretch band. You'll also receive 4 activity charts and an activity tracker to keep you motivated. Get yours now at boomerboost.com.
You guys heard it. Myotrol is great for your muscle creation, energy, and motivation. And I highly recommend any of these products that Boomer Boost creates. I mean, I've tested most of them. I've tried most of them, and they're fantastic. They help. They really do help. And let me turn off my surround sound 1 second. I know the Boomer Boost Gladiator Barley has literally um, made me explode in everything I do. Like it'll give me a different quickness. Like I'll get up out of my seat and I'll like jog faster. It'll make me way more explosive. That's the key for sure. just because of how powerful the barley is, it acts like a little mini dynamites inside of you, and helps you just get to where you need to go faster, and helps your cellular explosion. Like it's good for athletes. A lot of these products are very great for athletes, actually. The key about this company is that they were created in order to help the elderly, but then they started realizing, well, all the things that are needed in order to help the elderly is also what's needed to help athletes be like way better. So they started researching more into a foundation with those ideas in mind. And so then they came up with Boomer Products, which is for elderly, for athletes, for young adults, for anyone who wants to take their um, physical body, their biological body, to the next level to help enhance their mind and keep them balanced spiritually. So that way you don't have to go ahead and get addicted to pharmaceutical pills and like really start hating life, because that's like when people start using these alternative methods, like pharmaceuticals, they start like getting anger issues, and they start getting emotional issues and psychological issues and physiological issues. But if we can tackle these things with supplements, then that's the best thing that we can do for ourselves. Go to boomerboost.com, use coupon code Joe30. That was the longest ad read for Boomer Boost, but hey, it's a beautiful thing. Let's go ahead and get into this now. This is gonna be interesting. Ooh, I gotta click live on Instagram. Sweet. There we go. U.S. and South Korea reached tentative agreements on new cost-sharing deal for U.S. troops ahead of the potential Trump victory. So, our government and South Korea hurried up a deal this Friday, and they signed the deal already because they fear that Donald Trump is going to be president. And so the reason that is that the Biden administration is paying these guys, or no, the Biden administration is only charging South Korea $1 billion for protection, military protection, with bases over there. And if Donald Trump becomes president, the price of that protection is going to increase by 300 to 400%, because Donald Trump believes that what we're doing technologically and what we're doing with our military over there costs way more than what we're charging. And so it's very interesting. This deal wasn't even supposed to happen just yet, but the current agreement doesn't expire until the end of 2025. But the White House, or our government, and South Korea pushed for a brand new agreement or a update, and so they already got the agreement over, and I guess we're pretty much jipping out our soldiers. We're only paying the base about $1 billion and paying everybody there, so all the soldiers there in South Korea, like, they could be living in better conditions and with better food and better pay and probably better housing, more support, more financial support. 1 billion to 4 billion or $5 billion is a lot for the military and for our troops over there. I mean, the weapons and safety, that costs a lot. Having all the defensive measures, turrets, spy drones, satellites, cameras, bulletproof vests, tanks, whatever we need over there. But hey, that's our Congress. That is our Congress. They're sending. I calculated it. There's a picture going on from where is it? Billy Carson and Forbidden Knowledge News. He posted up a picture showing that over the last few years, there's been a total of $40 billion spent from our United States, like government, I guess, in general, uh, over these 10 different countries. But then for places like Lahaina, Hawaii, and South Carolina right now, they're only giving like $750 per person, probably nowhere near $40 billion worth that could be spent on our infrastructure. I mean, the migrants from the Kamala campaign, from Kamala and Biden's decision on immigration policies, are giving these migrants like $5,000 through $9,000 worth of goods, like, and debit cards and cell phones and food stamps and housing and cars and trip to like the red carpet in Hollywood, and pedicures and manicures and flights out to the Bahamas and Taco Bell and chicken and bro, whatever they want, they get. Yeah, that's our country though. Whatever Congress and these political oligarchs are doing, it's definitely not in our best interest. That's for sure. Next up, who knows if this is in our best interest? Gmail for iOS gets an AI assistant to help you manage your inbox. Google's Gemini AI gives iOS users a way to summarize emails and find information within messages and files. So, like I've been covering over the last few years, artificial intelligence is going to rule the world. Artificial intelligence is going to be everywhere, and artificial intelligence is going to be in all technologies. It's a possibility that you can turn it off or on, maybe. Hopefully, it might be mandated automatic once the technology becomes so prevalent. It becomes like a law that by big government surveillance. Oh, everything must be AI for safety and security, for domestic terrorism. If you're a Catholic or Christian, just like the CIA put out. But I'm just giving it a stretch right there, and I'm just playing. Um, So there's not much more to this except that you can see right here. Here it is. Gemini being used for your Gmail with AI. It says, "How can I help you today?" And so you can like tell it, well, show unread emails from today, show unread emails from this week, get the status off my recent orders. You can enter the prompt saying, show me my receipts and purchases over the last year. Show me how many times I ordered Pizza Hut. Yeah, there's but whatever you want, I guess. There's a lot of different open-ended things that you can pull out from this, which is cool. It's a better way to sort your emails and Gmails, that's for sure. Instead of having to go through, oh my gosh, you can tell the AI to do it for you and sort it out and put all the I'm sure you can be like, well, put all the emails with the receipts of purchases in a new folder, and it'll start doing that for you, which is cool. Um, yeah, hopefully that's the way it is. But who knows? Who knows? Next up, this is one of the biggest pieces of news that everyone should be paying attention to. I mean, I barely got put onto this, but this came out in 2015. And there's been updates in 2017. It probably got mastered in 2019. And I had no idea about this, but I guess it started making sense. I mean, it starts to make sense once you've seen how video games have like gone downhill, and they it just seems like there's a bottleneck in the video game market, and now we can kind of see why there's a bottleneck and why everything else outside of Call of Duty gets no love. Well, here's an application filed by Activision Publishing Inc. The patent is US 20160005270A1. It's called System and Method for Driving Microtransactions in Multiplayer Video Games. The inventors were Michael D. Marr, Keith S. Kaplan, Nathan T. Lewis. And let's get into this. The abstract says a system and method is provided that drives microtransactions in multiplayer video games. The system may include a microtransaction arrange matches to influence game-related purchase. For instance, the system may match a more expert marquee player with a junior player to encourage the junior player to make game-related purchases of items possessed by the marquee player. A junior player may wish to emulate the marquee player by obtaining weapons or other items used by the marquee player. So from there, it's automatically saying this system. It seems like it's like a chip or a hardware, its own computer, something along that sorts. It seems like its own computer process, right? Now, here I'm going to go on into a few more of the descriptions. Game security or game management aspects of involving player-related data, identities, accounts, preferences, or play histories for finding players, for building a team, or providing a buddy list. So this is there's a patent now to collect all of your data through video games. Everything that you do, everybody you play with, your preferences of play, your styles, who you want to build teams with, who you say yes to, who you say no to, what identities you use. It goes on. Interconnection arrangements between game servers and game devices, interconnection arrangements between game devices, interconnection arrangements between game servers. No idea how to explain that. Generator and modifying game content before or while executing the game program. Examples would be authoring tools specially adapted for game development or game integrated level editors. So, it says that they can modify game content while the game is running. Okay, interesting. Next, configuring a gaming machine, which would be of downloading personal settings, selecting working parameters. So they can set up they can set up all the parameters that they want to and use any settings that they want to from your profiles, from everybody else's profiles, so they can control matches and make matches designated to people. And so little by little, let's just say like this, they put 60 specific people in a Call of Duty match, and they know they like SMGs. They know that all the 60 people prefer SMGs. Well, in the game they're probably gonna add way more SMGs. That way people are gonna love it more. All right, it sounds a little bit innocent. All right. Next up, data transfer within a gaming system, data sent between gaming machines and users, wherein the operator is informed about the players, profiling, responsible gaming, strategy, behavior of players, location of players. So there's a person maybe that's behind these computer systems, and they could, if they wanted to, just pull up the information about the player in real time, and see the strategy and behavior of players, the location of players. So there can be an operator or an overwatcher of that game lobby, like a 61st person inside that game lobby, like an overlord. Very interesting, right? Which is kind of like in Halo Forge, you were able to change the game, but also play the game if you switch over to that mode. All you had to do is switch over, and then you could like go in your third person and stuff. But if you had someone else switching over to the Forge mode while you were playing, they could literally change the whole map around you while you're playing, and you would have to like just I mean, if you were actually controlling now the just the normal player, you would see the whole world being more around you from this creator thing, right? But in this, I'm guessing they created a backdoor where now the operator is just a 61st person, but it's not even tallied. It's just that they're controlling that game server. So they're able to log into that server as an operator, right? In order to, contour the map and to contour the game and make sure people are having fun. And it goes on. Incentive, loyalty, and promotion schemes. Computers, gaming associated with purchases, gaming funded by advertisements. So they're gonna give you ads and promotion schemes that are gonna go to in your favor and in what you like. Just like every other company right now, Facebook and all that, and well, every company that has ads. Yeah, Instagram, whatever. Next, timing aspects of gameplay, blocking, halting the operation of a gaming machine. So, if they wanted to, they can control the timing of gameplay, which seems very fishy when you start realizing and looking into ranked play and you look into certain players and like, even for you, if you were playing ranked and you just like seem to experience the weirdest glitch ever, and it's just like your player just blocks, halts, it's stops, it glitches, and it's like that was the strangest thing ever. It wasn't normal. It wasn't like a really normal lag glitch. It was just like seemingly a player system glitch, and it was like seemingly forced, right? Hey, this isn't a conspiracy. It's right here. This is a patent from the U.S. and Activision. And it involves games with multiple operators, but I mean games involving multiple players and probably single player games too. Next would be cooperative playing requiring coordinated actions from several players to achieve a common goal. So maybe this is saying right here that there could be multiple operators inside of this server trying to achieve a goal, which would be wild. For right now, it says that there's one operator in the server, but it could be several. But what I think maybe this also could mean is that they're focused on games involving multiple players and games involving cooperative playing more so. Details of game data or player management using player registration data, identification, account preferences, game history by matching opponents or finding partners to build a team by skill level, geographical area, background, playstyle. Next, features of games using an electronically generated display having two or more dimensions on a television screen showing representations related to the game characterized by details of game servers detailed by game services offered to the player for virtual trading items. So I give you a rundown of this patent. Now I'm going to show you something. I'm going to try to scroll down, but this patent is so long. There's two rulings, three rulings, 4 or 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm going to go down, see how far down this goes. There's at least 100 lines. Huh. And here's a little illustration, right? The match variable would be the latency. The match value, the value of the match for the person. Let's just say you're on a priority, so they're looking at your latency. Well, What it normally would be, I guess, is a 0.1. But hey, now they want to make sure that you're very, very, very laggy or whatever. So they increase it to a 0.08 so that now they can control that, right? You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do you guys a favor. This is a normal plan, and so I'm gonna put this through AI, and I'm gonna let AI tell you what it showed me earlier. Part of this right here says the scoring engine may select a potential match based on match scores, and so they determine everything from your performance, but also whatever the operator wants. So it's like a two-part thing where the operator and the AI is kind of choosing things for you and for the game and for every ranked match. So I'm guessing they're trying to read this more for ranked matches and multiplayer games because it's better to try to actually see like real time and live training and live simulation instead of like single player constantly just battling bots. People aren't really trying, but if you're playing against real people, like you're trying, what I mean? I try. So I already did this earlier, but this is Chat GPT right here. So I put patents Google, right? And so at first it says it looks like I'm currently unable to access the patent. And then so here we go. I put describe this. And it says patent blah 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 describes a system for tracking environmental conditions using a wireless sensor network. The system includes sensors that gather data related to various factors like temperature, humidity, light, air quality, transmitting this information to a central hub for processing. This allows for remote monitoring and control of environmental conditions, which can be applied in settings like smart homes, agriculture, and industrial processes. So this patent is a universal patent, not just for video games, but yes, it's also made for video games. I'm gonna go ahead and show you now where I asked this Chat GPT to summarize this patent and tell me what it means. Does this allow for in-game modification of damage or health to certain players so that they win or lose? Well, at first, it said, please provide the patent document or its details. And so here it is. Here's a patent once again. US 20160005270A1, which is same right here. So 20160005270A1. And so what it says at first, it says, well, there was an issue with the patent page. But if you provide some context, I can help explain it. So I literally just re-put the patent in again a second time. So then ChatGPT searched 3 websites, and yeah, it pulled up 3 websites from Forum Net Duma, Patents.justia, and Bing searches from people searching this up in Bing so many times. I'm gonna show you the Net Duma link that it pulled up for me right here. So here it is. Here's a forum right here from 2020. New patent exposes Activision's control changing real-time attributes of players based on skill KD. That's what I had read in here, that these operators can change the game details in real time, in game, while multiple people are playing based on each individual's skill level or likability, aggression. So they read things like aggression, and it's speculated that a lot of these technologies, even our iPhones and Samsungs, our Xboxes, PlayStations, Apples, laptops, Macs, computers, Microsofts, TVs, a lot of these technologies have surround reading technologies and surround reading sensors so that it can sense your voice, it can sense temperature and heat and um pressure like shaking and earthquakes and all sorts of it's kind of just speculated, but it's a hard thing to look into because once you look into that, you're like, holy shit, they're controlling and watching everything, right? Well, all right, who cares, right? Obviously, our government doesn't care or the people. So, anyways, ChatGPT had answered this patent and shown me a description, right? The patent US 20160005270A1 describes a system for influencing gameplay in multiplayer video games with a primary focus on encouraging microtransactions. This system uses various methods to analyze player behavior and adjust gameplay experiences in real time to optimize both player engagement and in-game purchases. So these systems main goal are to make as much money as it can. So it's going to keep bad players in the game longer, good players in the game longer. It's going to just manipulate the system like a cheating poker dealer, right? In particular, the patent allows for real-time adjustment of game attributes such as player accuracy, health, or damage based on performance or skill level. Let's just say you're dying a lot. Well, the game eventually is going to start catering so that you don't die anymore, so that you don't get off. This means that the game could adjust its difficulty to make a player's experience more enjoyable or challenging, potentially leading them to buy in-game items that help them perform better. For example, the game might pair a lower skilled player with a stronger opponent who has purchased better in-game gear, encouraging the lower skilled player to buy similar items to complete. The system also includes mechanisms for matchmaking that can tailor matches based on a player's historical data, ensuring more engaging and profitable matchups. However, this approach can be also seen as manipulating in-game outcomes, which would be like affecting player health, damage dealt, or factors to influence how well someone performs during a match, like how quick your shots go out. Maybe they increase your bullet speed just slightly, or they slow down your bullet speed just slightly, or they make your reload 2 times longer, or your shield put up 2 times longer, right? These small little things can be manipulated through the system operators. So ChatGPT says, in summary, yes, the patent suggests that the possibility of altering in-game mechanics like health and damage to influence the outcome, potentially favoring certain players or encouraging others to make purchases to improve their performance. So once again, right here, system and method for driving, not for allowing. No. They're forcing people into microtransactions, into staying longer, into feeling happy, into getting the weapons you want, or getting the kills you want. That's because they're reading your voice through both your microphone and probably those small sensors in our everything, right? In everything by now. So this is a real patent. It says, ooh, hold on, let me just push. Let me see this. So at first it was created in 2015, May 14th. Whoa! So it was assigned to Activision Publishing May 14th. And then in July 27th, 2015, it was assigned to Bank of America, which would be with Activision Publishing. In 2016, January 7th, it was published finally. In 2016, October 17th, it was assigned to Blizzard Entertainment, Activision Publishing, Activision Blizzard Inc., Activision Entertainment Holdings. And in 2017, it was given priority to be used in a lot of systems, I'm guessing. And then in once again, October 17, 2017, application granted to update it and to put more into this. It was republished in the newer updated models, and it says right here the status is active, so they're currently using this, and it's not expected to expire until 2035. So, if you guys ever felt like your rank matches were being manipulated, very weirdly, don't knock on wood, but you're really getting, screwed over, and you better hope and pray to God. You know what I mean? Just I don't even know what to say. This is ridiculous. When will this type of stuff stop? Like, our matches are being manipulated. So if you ever felt that way, yes, your matches were being manipulated. Just pray that this all stops. I guess that's all we can do, or we can just get off the video games, right? But there goes our sweet rank matches, man. And it's not just Activision. This is I'm sure that other companies are using this patent now, that they're allowing other video games are allowing this type of stuff to go on, to be read, to be done. I guess all in order to help corporate America, right? Oh Lord. Oh funny. Next up, Tulsa. The burning of Tulsa's Black Wall Street was a defining moment in U.S. history, but not really many people knew what happened there. In 1921, the Greenwood district of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and roughly 10,000 residents faced one of the most devastating acts of domestic terrorism and racialized violence in our country's history. From May 31st to June 1st, a white mob spurred by false allegations that a 19-year-old black man had assaulted a 17-year-old white girl brutally massacred hundreds of residents and burned 35 square blocks that made up a community. At the time, the thriving district, dubbed the Black Wall Street by Booker T. Washington, was one of the most affluent all-black communities in the country. Greenwood was considered exceptional for its safety for Black Americans in an era when rampant lynchings and racial violence that had been normalized in the country. And it was known for economic accomplishments like the home of 121 Black-owned businesses and the largest Black-owned hotel in the United States. An estimated 10,000 Black Tulsans, war veterans, sharecroppers alike, many who had come to the dreamland to work and escape the clutches of racial violence, suddenly found themselves without any trace of a home or community. They lost millions of dollars in property and land that neither the city nor insurance companies ever repaid. The community was left with, at best, an estimate of the number of lives lost, because the horrors were, for the most part, erased from history and memory of future generations. In 2019, journalist and author Victor Luckerson moved from Montgomery, Alabama to Tulsa to tell the stories of the survivors who built Greenwood and the challenges their descendants still face today. I apologize. Let me get some water. My entry point to the story was not actually the massacre itself, but the ingenuity solidarity, and entrepreneurship of the people who called the place home for generations, Luckerson said. I want to explore their legacies in full. The massacre is part of that, but it is not all defining. Greenwood deserves to be a permanent fixture in the nation's understanding of our collective history, not just a trending topic. I knew the massacre, but I was much more interested in the Black Wall Street, this mythological symbol of a black success buried in our history. The reasons I started researching Greenwood was because a young friend of mine told me he was tired of only seeing stories of black trauma in historical depictions, and that Tulsa and Greenwood were never being told. So my initial goal was to really recenter the people around this story. The idea that Greenwood was a utopia before 1921 and regained the classification afterward, it was a real community that was crime, poverty, areas with poor utilities, and more. There was also an amazing nightlife, impressive one person businesses, and of course, the major enterprises like the Dreamland Theater and Stratford Hotel that people know about. Really presenting a holistic picture of the neighborhood honestly wasn't something I necessarily considered a priority. I think the mob has taken a little too much mystique since we can't name very many of the people we know for a fact participated in the physical destruction of Greenwood. It allows the perpetrators to remain amorphous, floating just outside of history. But we do know that Tulsa's police commissioner deputized members of the mob and handed them badges. Whoa. We know that the mayor of Tulsa at the time endorsed the plan to seize Greenwood land and convert it into an industrial site. So I think analyzing the institutions that sought to destroy and exploit Greenwood is more important. There was so much paranoia in White Tulsa about the specter of white women and black men sleeping together. There was literally city hearings about bars where young white and black people were seen dancing and listening to ragtime music. People may know that the Tulsa race massacre was sparked in a sense by false allegations of rape of a white woman, but the seeds for that claim, man, it lasted forever. The seeds of a tree that never should have grown. Oof. There were many women of Tulsa too that were powerful. It wasn't just men. There was women like Mary Jones Parrish, Lula Williams, Eddie Faye Gage, Cleora Butler. Man, Luella Williams was the owner of Dreamland Theater and is one of the central figures in this book that this man wrote up here. It's the book. The book is called "Built from the Fire," Victor Luckerson, and it's all about Tulsa and what really happened there. It's very sad. It's very sad. Um, this could have elevated what we knew as the the older black communities and the good stuff that was going on with them and how they really helped change things and what they were fighting for and but instead you start seeing all of their riches and all of their cultures start getting attacked from everywhere, just like the Native Americans, and just like Latin cultures and foreign cultures around the world, like they get decimated by these white Europeans, these people who should have never been in our country, these foreigners, these British, whatever they are, whoever they are, whatever, you know, we know who they are. Like the government owners. How about that, huh? These oligarchs, these foreign oligarchs. Yeah, pretty brutal. Pretty brutal. Um, we're gonna go on. We're gonna talk about Louisiana and New Orleans, which is called a whole new name. A whole new name. You guys would have never guessed it, honestly. I had no idea that this city was known as Bulbancha. So before New Orleans ever existed, Native Americans were a huge dealing in America, right? Well, so was New Orleans. New Orleans had a large Native American population. It was actually known as uh the the meeting of all the as many tribes. It was a place of many tongues is what they called it, because there were about 22 different tribes from over the last 10,000 years in this area, is what it is speculated before the Europeans came. So there's already proof that Native Americans lived in New Orleans and this whole area known as Bulbancha, at least 1300 years before Europeaners and the French and everybody else. It's very interesting. Very interesting. We don't hear much about it. We don't even hear much about the Native American cultures there. Um, the Native American cultures were forced to, start leaving the city once the French came early in the or late 1600s and early 1700s. But they were here and they stayed, and some of them stayed in the city, but for the most part they stayed in areas around um, the city and in the marshes and all throughout Louisiana. And you can actually still go over there in to New Orleans and ask about this, and there's heritage sites for the Native Americans. um, they they were a big part in this creation of New Orleans, for sure. There was a lot of Indian slaves and African slaves that the European the Europeaners would take and use for workers, which is kind of bad. At the end of the 17th century, about 70,000 Native Americans lived in lower Louisiana. So, the marshes and New Orleans and everything. Leeway was given to the Indians in the Louisiana Territory change under the U.S. rule. Previous agreements were rescinded, and the Caddo and Choctaw tribes, among others, were forced to move outside of Louisiana. So, once the Louisiana Purchase was made, many of these tribes were forced to leave, which is pretty wild. Well, I'm going to go ahead and show you a lot of important dates and put together a good picture of what's really happened there over the last like 500 years. Like, I'm starting to look into it. Well, New Orleans has completely changed face from where it was 500 years ago. See, all these tribes used to live in this area of New Orleans, and for the most part, it was actually higher ground than what it is now. When the French came and built all their levees and they built all their cities and towns, or they built their town of New Orleans, and they built all the docks, and they used wood, cement, everything that they did. They lowered the ground and lowered most of the land over time. So the the architecture that they built over the next 200 years, 300 years, up until this day, like even now, like right now, is where you can go ahead and see, like, oh snap, like most of this is lower than what it was when the Native Americans had it, as bulbancha, the land of many tongues. See, they had all these cultures, 22 different tribes there, as it was a trading route. This New Orleans area is it's a port. It's right off the coast of Florida. You can go inland, and right along the coast you can start getting your way into the marshes and New Orleans right there. So it was a big trading port. That's what the Native Americans had it known for. You know, trade routes, and people from foreign countries would come in and go in and drive by, refill their ship, and like continental and cross-continental sea traveling and seafaring isn't new. It isn't something that the Europeans brought. It isn't something that the French brought. It's not even what the Vikings brought. Like, people have been traveling by boats for thousands of years, thousands, and everybody's hit every continent. People knew, like, there's been maps of Antarctica. People knew about. So it's never been anything new. It was always there, but they were just peaceful with each other. Like, all these 22 different tribes were super peaceful with each other. They had their own language there. There was a specific language that was used over in bulbancha because of how dominant the area was with its, I guess, diversity, what you could say. It was so diverse that they had their own language for the area, which is pretty fascinating. I'm gonna see if I can find you exactly where this this language is called. Let me see if I can find you what this language is called. But let's continue on with this whole picture, right? I'm gonna read the important dates in history. So it says in 1519, Alvarez de Pineda discovers the mouth of the Mississippi. So, mind you, this isn't something discovered, right? This isn't something brand new where, oh, he's the first person in the world to discover Mississippi. No, like, so this is colonialism. This is colonialism at its finest. This is from the Louisiana government site, right? So of course they're coming from the government side. The French, the Europeaners, the people who want to take over the lands. Very interesting, right? So continue forward. Hernando de Soto discovers the Mississippi River. Once again, it's not like it's just been discovered for the first time ever. This is colonialism. This was in 1541 and 1542. And then it jumps over to 1682. Robert Cavalier of Sieur de la Salle erects a cross at the mouth of the Mississippi River after descending the river from the Great Lakes and claims the territory for Louis 16th or no 14th of France, for whom Louisiana is named. So, in 1682, the French claimed the land after erecting a cross at the mouth of the Mississippi, like freaking they did with Iwo Jima, I guess, right? This René Robert Cavalier, Sieur de la Salle, is a 17th century French explorer and fur trader in North America. He led the first expedition down the Mississippi River to the Gulf of Mexico in 1682, establishing a French claim to the river valley, claimed the region watered by the Mississippi and its tributes for Louis XIV. All right. So let's just see if there's anything more on him. Whoa. 1 second. Where's this at? Huh. It says this was in, hold on. 1682. He planted the flag, and he announced that this was French land. Well, by 1687, he was murdered and stabbed. Wow. So yeah, I guess the Native Americans didn't like what he did, right? Very, very interesting. Okay. So going further about another 30 years, Louis Jutrel of De Saint Denis establishes Fort. Where is this? Fort Saint John Baptiste, the first permanent settlement in the Mississippi Valley. So about seven. That's about 200 years after all these French explorers start discovering these areas. They're like, "Ooh, this place looks nice. I'm gonna go ahead and take this place over." So it took them about 200 years for the French to get in there. In 1718, New Orleans is founded and named for Philip de Duc d'Orleans. In 1718, the St. Louis Cathedral in New Orleans is built, the oldest in the United States. In 1723, New Orleans becomes the capital of Louisiana, superseding Biloxi. In 1735, Jean Louis, a sailor, leaves his savings to establish the first charity hospital in New Orleans. In 1751, sugarcane is first introduced into Louisiana, and sugarcane is what messed up a lot of the Indians and Africans' teeth and everything, and they got them addicted to sugarcane. It's really, really weird. 1762, Louis XV gives the islands of New Orleans and all of Louisiana west of the Mississippi to his cousin, Charles III of Spain. In 1763, Treaty of Paris and 7 Years' War confirms transfer of Louisiana to Spain. Florida parishes seceded to England, with Baton Rouge becoming New Richmond. 1764, first 4 Arcadian families arrive in Louisiana from New York. 1796, opera is first performed in the United States at New Orleans. 1803, Louisiana is purchased from Napoleon I by the United States for $15 million. Louisiana is divided into the territory of New Orleans and the District of Louisiana in 1804. Very interesting, right? So New Orleans is a French name, right? So they separate it, which is just very strange. Very strange. It was actually given its own like laws, and these areas were given their own laws, and it allowed its own liberty. It's very strange. You should go ahead and look into the division of the territory of New Orleans and the District of Louisiana. There were 2 separate states, pretty much, of Louisiana, and just a few years later, it was they were both made a state, so they just joined back together in like 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, or something like that. In 1808, first public school is established in Point Coupe Parish. In 1811, first institution of higher learning opens in New Orleans. In 1812, Louisiana is admitted to the Union. In 1812, again, the first steamboat is to navigate the Mississippi River. The New Orleans arrives at the New Orleans from Pittsburgh on January 10th, 1812. 1815, the Battle of New Orleans is won by General Andrew Jackson. 1823, first natural gas field is discovered in Louisiana at a depth of 400 feet. 1837, Shreveport is founded. 1838, first Mardi Gras parade is held in New Orleans. And Mardi Gras is this Haitian voodoo type of celebration. I'm going to get into that later. In 1840, Antoine's in New Orleans, the state's oldest continuously operating restaurant, is established. 1849, Baton Rouge becomes a capital of Louisiana. 1861, Louisiana secedes from the Union, and after a brief period as a republic, joins the Confederacy. 1862, the first salt mine is discovered at Avery Island, the oldest in the Western Hemisphere. 1867, shrimp first canned commercially at Grand Terre Island. 1868, Louisiana is readmitted to the Union. 1869, first sulfur is produced in the United States. 1872, Rex King of Carnival parades for the first time on Mardi Gras. 1901, the first oil is discovered about 6 miles from Jennings. In 1915, the name jazz is given to the music of New Orleans origin. 1926, Louisiana's first public airport is built in Mansfield. 1928, Grand Isle Tarpon Radio was established, the oldest fishing tournament in the United States. 1932, new capital is completed in Baton Rouge. My bad, I meant to say 1928, the world's oldest fishing tournament was. 1935, Senator Huey Long is assassinated in the state capitol. 1935, first Sugar Bowl is played. 1947, Kerr-McGee Corporation, with offshore operations based in Morgan City, drills the first commercial producing oil well out of sight of land. 1963, the Tulane University accepts 5 black students, the first in its history. Notice how Louisiana government doesn't. You know what? I'm not even gonna mention it. 1973, the team of surgeons performs Louisiana's first heart transplant. 1975, the Superdome in New Orleans is completed with a final cost of $163 million for building and grounds. 1977, Ernest Morale is elected mayor of New Orleans, becoming the city's first black mayor. 1979, David Tren is elected governor, the first Republican governor since Reconstruction. 1983, Edwin Edwards becomes the first 3-term governor. 1984, the Louisiana World Exposition greeted millions of visitors to New Orleans. 1987, Louisiana celebrates its 175th anniversary in the admission into the Union, and the Louisiana State Archives buildings opened up at Baton Rouge. 1991, renovation of Louisiana's old state capitol began in order to provide home for the Louisiana Center for Political and Governmental History. 1992, Edwin Edwards was inaugurated to an unprecedented 4th term. So pretty much from most of all of the 1800s and the 1900s were ran by good people, people who were part of New Orleans and the original foundation of it all. These African and the tribal, the Native American tribal people who were there, who and all the generations, all the people that are around them. This was a generational area where for generations their families stayed in these areas, and it was mainly Democratic. And then the last thing you see, and I wonder why there hasn't been any updates in 20 years. It says Hurricanes Katrina and Rita devastate the Gulf Coast region. So, as I showed yesterday, Hurricane Katrina really messed up the area. So here is the Rex King guy, which is very. This was the guy that supposedly went over to New Orleans. Very, very weird. Anyways, right here, I'm going to keep going up. So some of the tribes that were there around Louisiana were the Chitimacha tribe, the Kuashada tribe, the Jina band of Choctaw, the Tunica, Biloxi, Araikaro Indians, the Bayou LaForge band of Biloxi, Chichamacha Confederation of Muskagees, the Choctaw Apache tribe of Ebarb, the Clifton Choctaw tribe of Louisiana, Four Winds Cherokee, Grand Caillou Dulac blend of Biloxi, Chichima Choctaw, the Jean Charles Choctaw Nation, the Louisiana Band of Choctaw, Natchitoches tribe of Louisiana, Point of Anchian Indian tribe, United Huma Nation, and this is just recent stuff over the last, I guess 100 or 200 years, and what has been left over. This is only half of them. So, as the French were coming in and invading and turning these guys into slaves, some of the tribes dispersed and probably never to be found again. Very interesting. There's a lot of tales from the Native Americans in this area of bulbancha that they go back at least 10,000 years, and I don't doubt it. I really don't. The way I see how historic how historic the cultures were here in America. very interesting. So, during the French colony days, which was only from 1700 to 1800s before it was bought out, they went through a couple different changes. Um, King Louis granted a proprietary charter that King Louis the 14th granted a proprietary charter to a merchant and nobleman named Antoine Crozat. It was meant for 13 years or 15 years, but this Antoine Crozat had pretty much failed everything in the city that he was given kingship over. So this guy was pretty much given kingship. He was the king at the time, and he was making all the decisions from all the trades to who worked and the prices, and he elected officials. He gave permission to work for everybody in the mines, or commoners, I'm guessing. Even he had title to unoccupied land, control over agricultural production and manufacturing, and he was the sole authority over the African slave trade. So this dude ran everything. He was pretty much the king of this Louisiana area for, it was supposed to be 15 years, but he pleaded with King Louis that he couldn't do it anymore. So he was given freedom to leave, which is just freaking, it's wild. Pretty much the French came over to this area, took it over, and then just kind of like said, "Ha, well, why don't you just like why don't you, one of your friends or one of my homies, one of a buddy, just one of the dudes, hey, why don't you just take it over? I don't know what I'm doing. Just you go ahead and take it over. You got it right." And this dude like ran that area into the ground. Pretty much, they lost money, is what I've read. Yeah, they pretty much lost money and kind of made everything unhappy, unsettling for a minute. So that's why he pleaded to get out. They let him out, and then um, this King Louis decided he's going to hand it over again a few years later. And just well, so this last man, Antoine Crozat, didn't even last 5 years. He was supposed to have him for 15, right? But he ran into the ground so bad, he gave it up within 5 years. So in September 1717, King King the region of France, Philip Duke of Orleans, King Louis, placed the hands of New Orleans into a Scottish investment banker at the hands of John Law. And so pretty much John Law had kingship over the colony, and pretty much had the same powers as Crozat, and he controlled who worked and where they went, where the mines are being worked on, and just all sorts of things like a king would, I guess. Controlled everything. Probably military operations, what houses he was able to take over, what food he was able to eat at all times. Like, hey, you get this baker over here. I want him to make me the best pies ever, every day, at the top of the hour, forever, every night. I mean, I'm just playing around, but yeah, you get what I mean. So once again, the French came over here, within 20 years of them taking over this area, they had already gave it to another person who failed, and that person gave it back, and then they gave it out to another dude, a Scottish banker. Very interesting. Very interesting. You wonder if they did it on purpose to like run it into the ground. If this area was already rich from the let's just say the richer Native American tribals people started putting their money into the city and started getting their freedom. So what was interesting about this area of New Orleans and Louisiana is that the French and Spanish allowed slaves to work for their freedom and pay off their own freedom, where that was an uncommon thing. New Orleans and Louisiana, even though there were slave trades, they would give them leeway. The the Spanish and the European, the French and the Europeaners and Spanish and whatever, they would allow the Native Americans and the Africans and whoever else was coming over as a slave, they would allow them to buy their own freedom back from their work. So, hey, you work 100 days for me, well, now you can buy your freedom back. Or, every day they get, like, let's just say a penny. And then, they can buy their freedom back for $5, right? So however long it took to make that money and then buy their freedom back. Like, very interesting, right? So New Orleans was always looked at as one of those safe havens for these people, for slaves, of both Native American and Black communities. Very interesting. Right here, it talks about when the French founded the city of New Orleans, they did so at a site that had been used for centuries by Native Americans as a gathering place for trading, former alliances, and hunting. The Choctaw named the area bulbancha, meaning land of many tongues, signifying the multi-tribal nature of this location. The land itself was situated on higher ground, information that the French might have learned from the native allies in Mobile due to the middens created by discarded oyster shells and sediment deposits. These conditions, along with convenient access to Lake Pontchartrain through the Bayou St. John Portage, made Bulbancha an attractive location for settlement. So it's pretty much they wanted a good trade route port and they want to control it, take it over for the money. Despite the devastating effects of the European colonization, descendants of the people who gathered at Bulbancha during the pre-colonial era are still here. The Jena Band of Choctaw, the Tunica Biloxi, the Kushrata, the Chitimacha, and all are all federally recognized tribes. Although state recognized since 1977, the Huma tribe still struggle to achieve federal designation. New Orleans was a planned town designed by French military engineer Lebrun du Latour in 1721, and the original grid can be seen in the French quarters still today. With a few years, settlers and enslaved Africans constructed permanent housing using native cypress elevated off the ground. The earliest French colonial houses had pitched roofs, few windows, and no porches. The houses were spaced out with gardens in between. During the Spanish colonial period, two large fires destroyed 1,068 French colonial structures. So they started building the city, and during the later portion of the French ruling, so like 1763 to 1803, but right before it got bought over with the Louisiana Purchase, two large fires destroyed all of the French structures. Very interesting. The Spanish government enacted building codes in 1795 that restricted the use of timber for multi-story buildings, instead favoring bricks and plasters. As the city rebuilt from the fires, houses were constructed close together, often with shared walls and courtyards. These courtyard homes served as an ideal model for future construction in the French Quarter, addressing two basic problems: the need for increasing density and sometimes uncomfortable subtropical climate. New Orleans was built on the enslavement of Africans and their descendants. Enslaved men, women, and children constructed the city's infrastructure, provided domestic labor, sold goods in the market, and built many of the houses and buildings still seen today. So, out of those 22 tribes and thousands of Indians, most of them were building New Orleans. Their cultural and spiritual traditions, skills, and knowledge fundamentally shaped all aspects of the city. The first enslaved Africans were brought to the city in 1719, a year after its founding. So whoever built it before 1719 was not African. Around 6,000 people before Around 6,000 people were forcibly removed from the West African coast, many from Senegambia, and brought to Louisiana during the French period. The Spanish imported a similarly sized group from the Benin and Congo regions of 1780s when New Orleans became an American city in 1803, enslaved Africans and their descendants made up over 1/3 of the population. Remember, by that time, there was also 70,000 at least Native Americans in there. In 1820, New Orleans was the center of the domestic slave trade, which forcibly moved over 1 million enslaved people by 1860. Very interesting. There were free Africans as early as 1722, just a few years after um, what is it? After that Scottish guy came in and helped started running things. Um, During the French period, militia service and the individual acts of manumism offered avenues of freedom, while the surrounding swamps sheltered enslaved residents who ran away. So all those tribesmen and all the slaves and all the Africans being brought over. Under the Spanish, the population of free people of color expanded considerably. The Spanish law of coercion, or self-purchase, allowed enslaved individuals to buy their freedom. Voluntary manuism, especially of women and children by enslavers, also increased following the resettlement of over 3,000 people of color from Haiti in the early American period. The population tripled. Over time, free people of color formed communities built on multi-generational freedom with strong ties to family and peace. By 1860, New Orleans had the largest free black population in the Deep South. Most free people of color were French-speaking, and many owned property. Free men and women of color were skilled artisans, entrepreneurs, teachers, poets, activists during the Civil War and Reconstruction. After a 4-month voyage from Pittsburgh down to the Ohio and Mississippi rivers, the steamboat New Orleans arrived on 1812. This event marked a revolution in commerce and travel for the river, allowing both movement down and upstream, which would help prosper New Orleans over the next 50 years. So at this point, New Orleans was now the port hub that it was set out to be. With the development of steam technology in the early 19th century, New Orleans became one of the largest ports in the world. Just what I thought and just what I figured. The city handled trade from the Mississippi River Valley as well as eastern seaboard, Europe, the Caribbean, and Latin America. So it's a touching point for all parts of the world. It's one of the major ports of the world. It's a major hub. New Orleans is best known for its Creole heritage, a mixture of Native American, French, West African, and Spanish cultures and people. But also in 1809 and 1810, over 10,000 Saint Domingue refugees from the Haitian Revolution settled in New Orleans, doubling its population. Between 1820 and 1860, over 500,000, including Irish, Germans, Filipinos, landed in New Orleans. Many of these migrants only passed through the city on their way to settle in other parts of the country, yet tens of thousands of immigrants stayed. After the Civil War, Italians, Jews, Croatians, Chinese, and others added to the city's population. More recently, Vietnamese and Latin American immigrants made their home in New Orleans. As of right now, today, about half of New Orleans' geographical area sits below sea level. This sinking occurred over the last 3 centuries as the city grew beyond what the French Quarter predicted and into the surrounding swamps. It seems like the Native Americans knew how to not make it sink, right? The sinking process began with the early colonists' efforts to use outflow ditches to move water out the French Quarter and into the swamps behind the city. So they started sinking the city by trying to outflow ditches. Okay. Wow. A population boom in the early 1800s, along with plantation, land sales, motivated city planners to expand beyond the French Quarter, allowing New Orleanians to move upriver into the present-day central businesses district and uptown and downtown into today's Marroni and Bywater neighborhoods. Yet it was not until the introduction of pumps in 1915 that the swampy areas were finally developed. But it also caused the land to sink below sea level. So it just started getting too heavy. So they started putting way too much property in, instead of building outward and more outward and kind of creating all these different communities in my multiple um, plots of land. No, they pretty much just sunk it. They they just sunk it. They knew what they were doing. These architectures and geologists and people who study the terrain, trust me, they know what they're doing, and it's kind of sad that New Orleans is pretty much under the ocean compared to where it was 500 years ago. It was above ocean. It had a thriving population of Native Americans, and now there is no Native Americans the way that it used to, right? And what's interesting is that during this time, there was a whole bunch of voodoo being brought in. Yes, voodoo is well known over in New Orleans, and you would imagine that it's something new, but it really isn't. This voodoo was brought over early in the 1800s through the Creole, through even early in the 1700s with um, some of the African people that was being brought over. Some of the African slaves, they were doing it less than the Haitians that were brought over in the 1800s. But when the Haitians and these other races, the Creole and these other clans who do voodoo, started populating more heavily into Louisiana in the 1800s, then it really started taking off and becoming a cultural thing. There's even a Catholic nun who did voodoo. I'm gonna read into it right now. It's interesting right here. Voodoo came to New Orleans in the early 1700s through the slaves brought from Africa's western slave coast. Like so many things in New Orleans, voodoo was then infused with the city's dominant religion, Catholicism, and became a voodoo Catholicist city hybrid, sometimes referred to as New Orleans voodoo. In New Orleans, for instance, Legba, the voodoo deity who controls the gate to the spirit world, becomes Saint Peter, who holds the keys to the gate of heaven. Very interesting. The hybrid was evident in Marie Laveau, a devout Catholic who attended Mass at St. Louis Cathedral and was a close friend of the cathedral's priest, Pierre Antillon. Today, voodoo lives on New Orleans through the people who see it as part of their culture. In front of Marie Laveau's brick and mortar tomb in St. Louis #1 Cemetery on the outskirts of the French Quarter, fans lay sticks of nickels, paper flowers, and other offerings. And you see her tomb right here. They have X's all over. Triple X, triple X, triple X, triple X, triple X, triple X, triple X. X's all over. They have flowers. They have little beads and all sorts of things. Alcohol and all sorts of stuff in the ground. When Marie Laveau was alive and living on St. Anne Street, Louisiana, New Orleans, people used to knock on her doors at all hours looking for legal help, food, or advice about straying husbands. Her death in 1881 didn't stop that. In voodoo, an ancestor is much alive as a living person. You just go to her new home now. Marie Laveau, who was also known as the Widow Paris after the death of her first husband, Jacques Paris, was a striking spiritual figure, a do-gooder, and a free woman of color. She adopted orphans, fed the hungry, visited prisoners, and nursed countless patients back to the health during the yellow fever epidemic. She also was a skilled naturopath, treating patients with massages, teas, herbs, salves, and tinctures, which is likely more successful with yellow fever patients than bloodletting and other medical techniques of the day. Some of the books cite first-hand accounts of neighbors recalling how Laveau had flowers, candles, images of saints, and altars all throughout her house, how the front steps were scrubbed every morning with brick dust to protect the house, and how she had a statue of Saint Anthony of Padua, the patron saint of finding lost items, that she would turn upside down when she was working. Very, very voodoo-ish. Very, very voodoo-ish. So it still goes on today. There's a lot of voodooism with this, and it doesn't stop there. So this post from the Washington Post, it's a real article, guys. Inside the human blood drinking real vampire community of New Orleans. And this sanguinism, is very interesting. I'm gonna show you something. So sanguine is pretty much, where is it? It means vampirism. Right here in this article, it says, having maintained direct control over its Mississippi colony for 13 unprofitable years, the French court held less than sanguine prospects for its future development. So these guys weren't so vampiric. These guys weren't so bloodthirsty like these other leaders, is what this is saying. This treaty is saying that these guys were looking for less murderous type of leaders, right? So this is interesting. This isn't nothing new. There's all sorts of aspects that, even like, the further you go back in history, the wilder out in the open it was, where people were like real vampires sucking on blood and like eating people and different things like that. But this is a real article too. John Edgar Browning met his first real vampire in a Gothic apparel store. A doctorate candidate at Louisiana State University at the time, Browning had already been on the hunt for several months. He was talking to the store owner of Wicked Orleans, a Gothic-style clothing and leather shop in the French Quarter. The store owner stopped mid-sentence. This woman, he motioned, was one of the people Browning was looking for. Nervously, Browning approached her and started talking to her about ethnographic study of real vampires. To be clear, these aren't the people who possess the supernatural powers that we associate with, like the Counts of Dracula, but rather individuals who claim to have a medical condition that requires them to drink blood in order to sustain themselves. Members of this community have chosen to identify themselves as vampires in defiance of the negative images that the label evokes. The woman smiled, and Browning had his answer. After he asked, did she know anyone who fits the description of a vampire? Her open lips revealed teeth that had been filed to a point like fangs. I call it my first time, Browning told the Washington Post of the inaugural encounter. Though the woman never did give him a call as promised, Browning soon found himself in the company of vampires again at a nightclub. Then, several weeks following, he met an elder vampire who invited him into the New Orleans Vampire Association, NOVA. Now, I'm about to show you. This is the AVA, the Atlanta Vampire Alliance website. Yes, a real vampire house. AVA, Atlanta Vampire Alliance.com. And here in their mission fact and mission statement, I'm going to go down over to the question 10. What is a real vampire or modern vampire? Their answer, this is a vampire alliance that's all across America, I'm pretty sure. A vampire is essentially an energy feeder or blood drinker that may display various levels of psychic ability. While the causality, interpretation, and sometimes even the proper spelling of vampirism are debated, vampires are generally individuals who cannot adequately sustain their own physical, mental, or spiritual well-being without taking the blood or vital life force energy from other sources, often human. Without feeding, the vampire will become lethargic, sickly, depressed, and often go through physical suffering or discomfort. Vampires often display signs of empathy, sense emotions, perceive auras, and are generally psychically aware of the world around them. To a degree, the specifics of vampirism manifest differently on an individual basis, and these nuances sometimes insulate the confusion in defining the vampiric range of ability and the path from which one approaches vampirism. There are numerous vampiric paths, houses, orders, associations, and groups within the vampire community that exist both online and offline, often each having their own unique philosophies, teaching, ethnical tenets, and protocols. Now, I'm going to also go up to. Where is this? Number one. Number one up here. It says, is the Atlanta Vampire Association an actual vampire house or is it a role playing group? The Atlanta Vampire Association is a local Atlanta, Georgia based real vampire house, but not in the mold of traditional houses that promote social hierarchy and exclusionist practices. We are not, this is capitalized and underlined, a role playing group nor engage in role playing activities. Likewise, we are not a lifestyle or group. We are an alliance of like minded individuals from sanguinarian, which is blood, but blood addicted, psychic, tantric, pranic, energy work, and spiritual backgrounds who have chosen to invest our time and effort into the progress and education of both the greater and local vampire community. So this is very, very, very real. This is not anything to joke with. I mean, I don't even know what I would have to look out for except sharp teeth and possibly, you know, people looking like they're drinking blood just from having that demon craze evilness that's usually behind those people and the way that, like, you know, their eyes look constantly evil. I don't know. You can kind of see demonic spirits sometimes behind people. Well, this is in New Orleans. There was a field study that this researcher from the Washington Post did among real vampires in the French quarters. The Atlanta Vampire Alliance have found that there are at least 5,000 people in the United States who identify as real vampires, and about 50 living in New Orleans alone. Not every vampire must drink blood to survive. Some simply derive strength from taking the psychic energy of others. This can be accomplished through intimate human touch, like giving someone a massage. Very interesting. The community has adopted terms to describe their unorthodox habits. To feed is to drink blood, while those who give their blood are called donors. Being awakened and coming out of the coffin are ways to talk about becoming aware of one vampiric identity. Elder vampires who have been awakened for some time can turn in advice on others on how to cope. 1 year into the study, Browning decided to try being a donor himself. During the Nova Holiday charity event, where members of the vampire community come together to make food for the homeless, he met with a vampire who left the turkey he was cooking to feed. Each of them have a particular method. This person used a disposable scalpel to make a tiny prick on Browning's back, then used his fingers to squeeze the area until blood came out. He put his mouth directly over the warm liquid and lapped it up, repeating the process 2 or 3 times before cleaning Browning's wound. Browning said only the pricking hurt, but mostly because he's a needle phobe. Someone might become a donor for a number of reasons, from being a close friend to doing it for financial compensation and sometimes even sexual favors. Vampires approach these potential donors after having observed them for some time and only if they're fairly certain with the kind of people that they work with won't freak out. The vampires whom Browning spoke with claim that they can't control their urges, which amount to a need for around 2 or 3 feedings a week. If ample blood is on offer, they might refrigerate it and later combine it with other ingredients like tea. Kinesia, a woman who identifies as a blood drinker, told the BBC that she isn't a vampire by choice. Many of us would rather not go through the cyclic symptoms and be happy to live our life like a normal person. A real vampire in Britain, Alexia, echoed the sentiment. If the cause could be identified, I would most likely take a pharmaceutical pill. Most vampires have kept their condition from those doctors because they are wary of stigma. But those who are known to have disclosed their habits haven't been able and haven't given a medical explanation. This could very well be in our heads. A vampire who calls herself CJ. Yet vampires who have tried to stop drinking blood have met very scary consequences. When Kinesia went 4 months without feeding, she found herself in the emergency room with a low heart rate that would shoot up to 160 when she stood up or walked around. This would be followed by a massive migraine and sometimes a loss of consciousness. Browning said she knows of a woman who found herself unable to go to work or even walk after a period of not ingesting blood. When her husband came in to see her in the hospital, she fed from him in a room and immediately felt better. A medical doctor, Thomas Gons, and a professor at UCLA told the BBC that the cure offered by blood in these cases may very well be psychological or demonic. I wonder if there's any type of spirit attached to these people. This is they say right here in this, there is likely a strong placebo effect akin to ingesting bitter powders, brightly colored liquids, or another substance that does not look or taste like conventional foods. This effect can be further enhanced if there's a ritual component associated with the ingestion. Huh, yeah, if they're chanting some type of like dark entity's name and they're doing this, it might really possess them. If the individuals feel a sense of exclusivity, then it really might be something that's beyond psychological, maybe. Though the habits of modern vampires may seem to frighten most, Browning insisted that the ones he met in New Orleans were super friendly. Sure, they just drank his blood for a little bit. No worries, it's super friendly. After a while, he felt more comfortable being in New Orleans and would just I guess he started attending more. That's how non-abnormal they came across. Being marginalized, they're more in tune with their self-identity and much more aware of the real world around them. Wow. So, Browning in this Washington Post is also a gay man. Says a gay man. Browning said he's been able to sympathize with and believe that the vampire's condition is real, even though there seems to be no scientific explanation. Either that or Browning sat with a gay man who was a vampire. I don't know. None of the people I interviewed gave me any reason not to believe what they're saying. Being a gay man. Oh, yep. It does say that. Wow. So this dude was in New Orleans looking for vampires. He found vampires and then he let them suck his blood. All for the Washington Post. Holy what kind of journalism is this? This is insane. The Washington Post, I mean, I'm just putting it all together now. The Washington Post literally sent a dude. Either they paid him, they sent him, or they really loved this story so much that a vampire was sucking this dude's blood off his back that they wanted to put this on their website. As far as trying to make it look like vampires aren't really that bad. This is the spin. This is a spin. They're like, well, vampires just a marginalized group, and they have to do it for medical reasons, and it could just be psychological. But who knows? Let's just not judge them though. They're super friendly. They're totally nice. They're just gonna drink my blood a little bit, right? And no need to worry about that because you don't need to judge them. They're marginalized. They totally get it. A bad look. They don't just go around killing people and drinking their blood. Like, this is bull. This is all right. Look, this is real stuff that's going on. There's people out there who do drink blood. This is vampirism. This is old stuff. Old stuff. This is sanguinism. You can probably research how old sanguinism goes back. Just let's just do that online right now. Sanguinism. I'm wondering if I even spelt that right. Sanguinism. Blood drinking. Vampire lifestyle. Hold on. All right. Well, AI doesn't really do much. I'm looking for anything I can within a short amount of time. I'm probably gonna have to do a deeper research and actually pull up some articles. Okay, so there's one thing, right? It's like they're everywhere. They're everywhere around the world. It's not just these elites and the Hollywood people. There's just commoners and normal cities folk. And what's interesting is that none of this came to New Orleans until the French completely kicked out the Native Americans, sunk their city, and then 200 years after the city was bought over by America, and the French were kicked out, and the French's buildings were all, burned up, very shadily, probably. Well, then now all the remnants of the last 200 years and the African tribes and the Native American tribes and the African ancestors who were the children of the slaves, I guess, pretty much, who built the city, and the generational family and wealth that was there. It all got destroyed with Katrina. So there were many cultures completely wiped out over there in Louisiana, New Orleans, and it's kind of a shame, to be honest, where it used to be this beautiful city, and then the French came and sunk it, and then America came and destroyed it even further. It's insane what has happened over there in New Orleans. I hope that you guys enjoyed this broadcast. It's been an hour and a half. Yo, both of you guys out there, both of you guys, sup, dude? And Danny says everything is live based. Yeah, a lot of things are live based these days. Very fascinating. Yeah, this is a wrap up for today, though. So I hope you guys enjoyed tonight. It's been a wonderful broadcast covering the technologies used against us in video games and what has happened against the communities in the South, in Tulsa and in New Orleans, pretty much destroyed completely. Hope you guys have a good night, and God bless, and take care of yours. Like, subscribe, share, donate down below. Donate to PayPal and Cash App at 509 Divine Pines. And see you guys next week. I love y'all. Be blessed. Be high. See you guys next time on the 509 Divine Pines broadcast, podcast. Yes. Yeah. Boy. Have a good one. Have a good weekend.
Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught up in the loop. Got up out it cause I found the truth. Woke up to a beauty of the day, the sun is shining, so I'm finna stay sitting, soaking up all of the rays, till I feel it surging through my brain like some burger sugar. Did a lot of cane, experimented with it, couldn't name all the times I did it, feeling like a fade. Yeah, I'm really glad that I let it go, cause I gotta be prepped for the time when the plane ride is a new norm. So I know I'm gonna stay high, blaze on the ganja, feeling like I make my music go to another level while I take off. I can't ever stop this, fell in love with it, fit like a glove, so I'm never ever done with it. So now I'm about to rip another beat, ayy. One day I'll make a million in a week, yeah, shooting for the top spot. Feel like I'm a hot shot, like I really got a chance with it. I will not flop, somebody gonna make a dance when I pop off. Gonna have all the bitches taking all the tops off. I've been feeling like I'm really gonna kill it for the rest of my life, so I've been staying focused. In my soul, I've been feeling like $1 million, so I know that everything is really getting closer. Yeah, no posers, only been hanging with the ones I've chosen. Only all the people that are living in the right way, cause they spending every day growing. Yeah, no whole shit coming in my life and then leaving in a moment. That's the shit I'll never let into my life again, cause lately I've been feeling like I'm golden. Never showboat, I just showcase on my music that I made this far. Always knew that I could be the one that would get this far. Now I'm right here looking in my mirror, trying to figure out if there's any more fear, cause I'm getting rid of it all, yeah. Yeah, I'm getting rid of it all. Meditating, analyzing everything I see, so I see new horizons. Took the acid, feeling blasted in my brain, so I've been sitting up inside it, thinking about the present and the future. I'm improving cause I am a trooper, never getting caught.
Hmm. Hmm. Mm. Hmm. Hmm. Oh shit! I'm still on stream. My bad, y'all. Peace. Love y'all.